Hey you guys, this is Jerry Mateo with Plugin Boutique, and today I'm going to use StereoSavage to quickly improve a mono keyboard sample and a mono vocal draft for this early production. This is basically a skeleton of a mix. We're going to definitely be layering stuff on top of this later on, but for now we want to just show you guys how you can do something in early production. Now this is basically going to thicken up the vocals, make it sound like we're having a double, and we're going to also make this mono keyboard sample into stereo. Now let's start off by turning them both off and seeing how it sounds. So we're going to bypass this vocal reverb that I have set up just to listen to it one more time to make sure we see what it sounds like without any processing. Cool. So now what we're going to do is we're going to actually go onto the keyboard first of all, and we'll use the StereoSavage that's on the keyboard. Let's set this to default, but before we do that, I want to show you what type of sound we're going to achieve. So we'll play it, turn it on. Cool. So we'll go to default, and let's start off just from the beginning. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to turn on the effect. We have 4 different modes: Vox, Delay, Expand, Split. Let's see how they all sound. We'll increase the width on all of them just to make sure we get the sound. And that's the sound I ended up going for. Split basically uses really intelligent comb filtering on the left and right side, and it basically gives you the sense of a very wide stereo image, and it sounds very natural. Now, I want to move the rotation around because that's basically going to move the mono image while keeping the stereo effect. So let's see how that sounds. Well, I want this a little bit to my left. Now we're going to use the input routing because the keyboard samples that we used were mono. So we're going to have mono sum. I'm going to also bypass anything under 100 Hertz because I don't want to cause any phase issues later on in the mix. And I'm going to turn on the LFO tool. This is probably one of my favorite tools. This will basically add movement and modulation to whatever I set it to. So we're going to have the rate be about 1/8 notes, increase the phase just by a little bit, and we'll go to rotation because I want the sense of a disproportionate room. So the microphones are picking it up and it's kind of moving a little bit and phasing. So let's see how that sounds. We'll put this amount to maximum. Let's bring this down to 2 or 0.2. Turn it off. Back on. It has a tiniest bit of wobble, and that's going to give me a sense of realism. So we're done with this. Now we're going to go to the vocal. As you heard, the vocal is pretty dry, but it's very clean. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this back to default, turn it on. You can already hear how it sounds a lot thicker and a lot warmer, but I want to make that timing really loose because I want it to basically sound like a performer has a very loose sense of time. So let's see what it sounds like now. So let's do the input routing, make it mono sum. We're not going to mess with the bass bypass, but we are going to use the LFO tool. And this right here, this kind of like weird little looking sine wave, it's basically like a modified sine wave. This is basically one of my favorite LFOs that it has. The shape is awesome and it's really natural and smooth. We're going to also mess with the rotation just by 0.2. Let's see how that sounds. A little bit too much movement, so we'll back it down to 0.1. And we'll slow it down. That sounds good. So we'll take it out of solo and let's bring that reverb back in. And let's see how everything sounds now that we've used both these processes. Let's bypass them both. Bring it back in. So we have a piano sample that sounds way thicker, way wider, but also has a centered image that's been tilted slightly to the left. but we're also keeping the sense of stereo. And then we're using a very slight tucked double into this vocal draft, which is just basically giving us a harmony. But you notice how it sounds much thicker, much warmer, and it sounds fuller. Anyway, that's it for today's video. This has been Jeremy Mateo with Plugin Boutique, and I'll see you guys next time.